council decided to tackle this, like many municipalities across North America. I think our first information was, we worked, there was a software company that actually goes out and their software goes and scans the internet to see who's listing their places. And
So that would have been the software that dinged me.
Right, so they identified up to 130, I think, at the time, that councils, and maybe likely some of those probably said they were Nelson, but were actually out of town. So anyway, so council basically then said, like, this is getting out of hand. We don't have the resources to make sure no one's renting their properties, and even if we did try to, stop change isn't going to work. So we need to develop some regulations, and that's when council asked staff to start to work on these, a new short-term rental regulations and bylaws to change the system. So that's, I guess, the progression of how we started with
all of that. I understand completely.
Right, with from B&Bs, traditional B&Bs, to these new regulations we have in place. So during that process, we said, what did we do with the traditional B&Bs? They followed our regulations. They made investments in good faith, and weren't these other ones that just ignored our regulations and just started up in front. And we know we have to spend a bunch of money to make sure that people aren't cheating the system, and that's the reason why
So have you looked into finding out from Airbnb, because they obviously have records of who was paid out and what in this area, obviously.
Yeah, they've given us some reports.
So they know exactly who made money and who rented what.
I don't think
because
they gave us the property.
I'm sure that the taxation in America requires Airbnb to make that transparent information.
Well, what
So-
they've shared.
Yeah.
What they've shared with us is the number. So you have.
By law, they would
50.
share the specifics if you asked for them, because you would
I
have
don't
to
know if
use
we
it.
have that.
You'd have to, because the government, IRS would use it to check people's tax returns.
Yeah,
and to
but
see
we're
that.
not.
Right, no, but it would be available to you for asking.
They have it.
Yeah.
I don't know if we have.
Well,
the right
as
to-
a citizen, I'm requesting that you find out, just because, it doesn't matter if it happens or not, but I made the request with Alex, with Megan,
And why would you want?
well, because I wanna know I had competition, unfair competition that the city allowed. Maybe there's $1 million
Well, we didn't
that went down
allow
the
it.
drain. Well, okay, you
Like I
didn't
said,
protect my license,
we're
but
on-
that isn't even our issue
Right.
here. Our issue here is,
So
about
that's-
me not having to rent my house out
Right.
to somebody else.
So under the old regulations and under the new regulations, council made a conscious decision to require someone that was gonna have their house available as a.
The regulations
B&B?
must not have said that when I started my process.
Well, we'll go back and check
Yeah.
that. I'm pretty certain it is, and we'll share that.
Well, Alex
with you.
already did.
Mhm.
Alex already did to that year, but maybe the fact that I got my information from the city, I didn't in any way sneak it. I bought the house.
Yeah.
Before I purchased the house, I came to the city and checked the regulations and the bylaws.
And what do you have from our staff? Because staff can't override council bylaws.
Right.
Like if the bylaw says you must live
Well,
there.
obviously you did override the bylaw by issuing me a license for all these years and also accepting my taxes, because you know that I'm a foreigner because I don't get my resident
But that
rent,
doesn't.
right?
it's
The
not-
city, on some level knows, right? I wasn't lying or cheating in any way.
Yeah, and I'm not accusing you
Yeah,
of that. I can't say, there's, the person issuing the license may not necessarily.
If they made a mistake by issuing a license, if Gary and John, who helped me get my business going, made a mistake and thought that the bylaws were different
Right.
and led me down this path, they are city employees who are trained by the city. I have invested so much money. My whole life depends on this. I can't go down without a fight. I need to have
Mhm.
that changed, however it needs to be changed. If it doesn't, I think that I can hold the city responsible for allowing me to make to sink all my eggs in this basket and then for it to fall apart.
Well, I
An
don't
easy
mind
thing to
talking
do.
to
What?
John, I'll talk to John Southam.
It
Is that
would-
who you're referring
No,
to?
it was mostly Bernie.
I can talk
right?
to Bernie as well.
And they certainly said you can have somebody within 15 minutes, that's what they believed. They said I had to serve breakfast, I couldn't not serve breakfast, so I had like a self-serve breakfast, like oatmeal and tea and that kind of thing. And now they're saying, well, you can't have access to any kitchen, right? And I'm like, well, what are they gonna do? Eat the oatmeal in their bed? And they're like, no, now I can't serve breakfast. Is that right?
You can. They can't have exclusive access to a kitchen. It can't be like a suite, but they can go into the kitchen.
Okay, so I need that in writing too, because
It's in the bylaw. Mm-hmm.
okay, so it's okay that they pass by my stove and can touch it,
Yes.
and I can cook something on it.
They just can't have they can't have the entire dwelling unit to themselves. They can't have their own kitchen.
Okay, if
Unless, and that's because it doesn't meet, the
Because
building
it's not-
code.
Because
So
that's a
that's
separate
sweet.
license to have to rent to have exclusive access to a kitchen and bathroom facilities, etc.
Oh, right.
That means you're talking.
A
about
different
but people can
rate.
have their own private
They
bathroom.
have their own private bathroom, but it's a bathroom plus kitchen plus bedroom. That's now a dwelling unit. So that's not your situation.
Okay, so I'm
You're
fine. Okay, but so all I want to do is be able to sell my house with a going concern, which Alex has given me. I want to be able to have not have to put in parking because it's too steep of a hill. It would never happen, and I want to be able to use my house, and also rent out rooms to pay for my house.
Well,
And
there's no reason you can't use your
it is
house.
because we're at your current scenario, which is I've rented my whole house to Keegan.
So how much of the year will you be here?
My life changes.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm a 53-year-old woman. I'm a spinster. I get less and less work. I don't know what will happen. I would be a Canadian citizen if I had a business that was successful enough to apply for a citizenship.
Yeah.
But because of this scenario, and I was supposed to make, according to my paperwork, $40,000 to $60,000 a year off these rooms if they were rented half the time. That was a conservative investment, and I've made like 20 because of the competition, and then you shut me down. So the $200,000 I was going to be able to show the Canadian government over the last 5 years that I had made in this system so that I could become a citizen and be a resident of my dwelling does not exist. And my lawyer said, you can't apply with this as a business. It's a pitiful business. So lots of different things are happening as a result of the A, unfair competition, B, taking my license away. But those are not the things on the table. What's on the table right now is if I have been tricked, we need to fix it. Because if you guys represented to me that I could buy this house and do what I am doing now, and you were misinformed, I shouldn't have to be responsible for it.
Yeah,
Gary and John definitely knew that I had a bed and breakfast and knew that I wanted to rent 2 rooms. They came over and inspected like 6 times. They made me get a exit light.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I thought they meant a red exit light, not just a light that turns on in an emergency.
Mm-hmm.
So my whole upstairs has this red light coming out of it. My neighbor's like, why do you have a red light, Lisa? It was terrible. But they came back a lot of times. It was a lot of work. And this is a lot of work. And this is 15th or 16th meeting regarding why is my license gone. So first of all, I'd like
So
to...
you do have a license.
Yeah, you've given me back my license, right? But in theory, I can't use it because we've got a license in Keegan's name because Pam made me rent my whole house out to someone else to run it.
Mm-hmm.
So he's now living there with a bunch of kids and it's full of beer and stinky and it's my house and I don't want him there and I don't want to run the business. I want a responsible person to rent my rooms out. I want to live in my house occasionally, maybe have a roommate that's full-time. Maybe that roommate will be the responsible person. Usually it's one of my roommates that I hire to manage it or one of my neighbors. But I don't want to have to surrender all of my possessions to someone I barely know and the future of my life and business because suddenly it has changed that it has to be a live-in resident, right?
Yeah. All I can say,
It was a
That was-
mistake.
that was always the rules, and I'll find out whether,
It is not the
Whether
rules for
there were-
provincial BC, and I'm pretty sure provincial BC rules were the rules on the website, because I have someplace, Pam said to me, no, you can't rent it out. You can't rent it to someone else. And I said, but here's what it said in the website 2.5 years ago. And if you look at the old website, you had cut and copied all of the provincial BC rules for short-term rental, and the bylaws that you're telling me about now were not on the website. What was listed on the website that was for me to read was a different set of rules. And I have some screensavers of that I saved, but not this particular issue, because I didn't understand that was going to be a particular issue. Anyway, that's my case. And my second case is, I'd like to know if I can be reimbursed for the lost money that I had and the fact that you shut down my license, but that's a totally different story and I don't care that much about it. I care about this. And the third thing is, completely unrelated, I have my water and sewer and my taxes taken out of my bank account. And it says, City of Nelson, $400. City of Nelson, $88. I cannot tell when you take out money which one is my sewer, which one is